the things on the 190E that I need to fix. The heater doesn't work, like the actual blower inside the car. Now, they are quite common for the blower motors going. You've got to remember these are like 30-year-old cars. But the other issue I've noticed is the actual slider that controls the speed of the, the fan inside the car is also stuck. It was on full max speed when I got in the car. I did obviously test things like this when I got in it, and I noticed that it went to the lowest and it wouldn't go back up. So I'm quite familiar with these cars, so I knew right away that the button was knackered. Okay, so this is the kind of mechanism here that controls the speed of the fan. So I've obviously taken the top cover off so you guys can see inside it, but so what essentially happens is that's the plug there. This is like the little circuit board. Now there's little copper contacts at the back here. So what happens is there's little rocker arms here. These basically let these connect and disconnect to the board behind it. Now what happens is there's a little tab which allows these arms to move so much but then not too much that they over rotate. Now the reason that you want that is because what happens is when this slides along, bear in mind this is on a spring, when it slides along you can see here that it actually gets jammed in between 1 and 2 and it can't go any more because this is over rotated. So that's the problem basically, that's why the slider keeps getting stuck. I have seen videos of people online gluing the little plastic tabs back on, but it's not going to hold in my opinion. It's that spring on this has got quite a bit of tension on it. It's just going to snap back off and you don't want to have to do this again. So I'll quickly show you it. It's quite fiddly, but once you understand it, it's pretty simple. It's typical Mercedes, over-engineered, but you can see here the little rocker arms. Now you can see this one's actually intact, so you can see that little stopper at the bottom there. It lets it turn, but not too much. But over time, obviously, there's a lot of tension on this. That little plastic tab snaps off. And if you look at the third one, you can see that it no longer has that tab. You can see where it's snapped, and it lets it rotate completely 360 degrees round, which is obviously, it's no good, it's going to get jammed. So that's the problem we've got. So we need to find out a way how to fix it. Now you could just go and buy another one of these from Mercedes. I don't even think Mercedes sell it, but you can pick them up online. They're roughly about £100. It's £100 that I'd rather not spend on the car if I can help it. Now, like I said, I've seen people on YouTube gluing the tabs back on, but when you realise how small that bit of plastic actually is, that's it in my hand there, it's absolutely tiny. You're not going to be able to get a good enough purchase of super glue on that, and if you do, it's probably going to come back off anyway, and we don't want to have to do this again. So I spun my head around a few ideas, toyed with a few ideas, getting some washers, putting them around the hole and then gluing the washer in place and then trying to get like a little tab on the bottom. That was a plausible idea, however I'm not the best with welding. I kind of toyed with the idea of soldering some solder on it, but I don't think that would work either. I think that would break off. So the next idea I had was, you've probably seen the nails lying about on my table. So my idea was to take a nail and basically drill a hole through the bottom, which you can see I've already done 2 just to make sure it does work and I'm not looking like a total fool. Poke the nail through, and then basically that should stop the arm enough for it to not make contact, not over rotate, but still make contact with the, the copper, circuit if you like. So yeah, that's my plan. So we're going to drill out the rest and just make sure that it works. Hopefully it saves us £100 buying a new heater controller that we don't need. Okay, so here's hole number 1. So what we'll do, now obviously the nails I had to cut them to length, so these are the ones I've prepared earlier. So I should need 5 in total. I'm obviously just going to try these ones first and just make sure it actually works. There's no point in doing all this and it doesn't work. You can see that's the 2 of them in there. Here's how it looks now. So let's test fit with a little rocker. So we pop it in place. So let's see. So it rotates that way, rotates that way. So it still has the right amount of movement by the looks of it. It's quite a bit. You can actually see where the plastic used to go, and it actually lines up perfectly where it used to go. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's pretty good for a first attempt, I must admit. So all I need to do now is do the same for this side, and I'm only going to get away with one, I think, because this side's slightly different. It's got a different colour, which has a bit missing. But this one, it kind of stops its cell once it goes too far that way. So it shouldn't need one that way, it should only really need it this way, so it's pretty good. So I'm using a 2.5mm drill bit. The size of the nail obviously dictates how big, but should be okay. Now what I'm going to do is just quickly use the nail to create like a little pilot, if you like, just in the plastic. Okay, so let's try these ones. Right, so that's the next one in. So we've got rocker arm number 2. Again, looking at where the tab used to be, it's actually spot on. Like, it's actually crazy. That's really, really good. Wow. Okay, so last but not least, I've got this one. I reckon right there. Right where that dot is. To be fair, I've been lucky so far, so fingers crossed. Don't fuck this up. This is like stitch welding a block. Right. Last piece of the puzzle. Well, that was much easier. In she goes. Right, fingers crossed. Put this on. Oh, by the way, it misses that little notch. Just hope it's okay, but I'm pretty confident that that's looking pretty good. So let's quickly go through. So that's off, low, second lowest, third, fourth. Now you've just got to be careful that these don't pop up the way, but wow, I think we can successfully say this will do. I'm super happy with that. That's a great fix, and it saved me £100. So for the sake of some old nails that I had lying about, you know, it's a pretty good free fix. You know, a couple of minutes with a grinder and a drill. There you go, you've got your free fix for your heater control for your W201 190E. Minted. Okay, so I'm just going to glue these in, just a wee bit extra protection to stop them falling out or anything like that. So just some Loctite I've got lying about. I'm not going to go too crazy because I don't want it going anywhere it shouldn't. Now this is probably the trickiest part. So this goes on like this, but this part also needs to go on top of it. So the best way to do it is to kind of put it over, and you want to try and get this part in this groove. And I think this is to do with the Bowden cable. Either, I don't know what it does, either maybe it puts tension on it or something, but you need this on. So you just want to gently bring it over, being careful not to undo anything. And then once she's over the top bit, you want to kind of line it up with the back bit here, and then she just goes over the top like that. And if all is well, we should have one heater controller. So now, when we move this along, you can see that it's nice and smooth in its operation, doesn't get stuck. I mean, that's a pretty harsh test. It's never going to go that fast in real life. All I need to do now is put this back in the car and test it and see if it works. Pretty surprised it wasn't that bad. Like, I thought it was going to be a lot worse, to be honest. Fingers crossed, you know, it doesn't fly open like when it's getting used, but I don't really know. I think it's just glued in place for the factory, so I might just put some like dabs of glue here, maybe get like a pair of mole grips and just squeeze it shut just to make sure it doesn't fly open. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Like, it's Can really made my day. Saved me $100. Indeed. Oh man, this car just smells like a time machine. It just smells like 1980s. Look how big it is! Fucking mental, man. I love this thing. Right, so I've put the switch back in. It's still not working, so I'm going to now check the actual blower motor. Obviously the switch was faulty anyway, so at least we know the switch is plugged in, if you like, and it's, you know, it's operational. But the blower motor still isn't working. Now the battery's disconnected at the moment, but I have tested it and it's still not working. So what I'm thinking is check to see if there's an obvious fuse for the fan, because the fuse box in this car is quite freaky as well. I'll show you. I love this thing, man. It's so cool. I love how it starts first time now. It's so good. Right, so that didn't fix it. So I'm thinking the actual motor itself is probably seized, or yeah, it's just fucked. But one way to check is I need to check voltage at the motor to confirm that. So I'll strip it down so I can get access to them. So this is the motor assembly under here. Now that cable's attached to that cable inside that I was pulling, so I don't know what it does exactly, but I'm thinking the wiper assembly is going to have to come out. There's 1, 2, 3 bolts by the looks of it, 10mm each. Oops, there's one more up there. That needs replaced. I think this has to come off, being honest. Or you at least unbolted. This is going to be rusty. Now if this fan is seized, my theory behind it is because the switch has been fucked and no one's had a brain cell to fix it, I reckon the fan's obviously not been getting used for a long time. So hopefully if I can free it, it should work. These old German connectors, man, just total, just bullet connectors for everything. Got a bit more room now. So there's a couple of 8s here. Not that bad to get to actually. I think it's quite silly that you've got to burst the coolant lines to get to the bulkhead off, but it's not very often you'll be doing stuff like this. Now I'm going to be prepared for the beasties that come out here. I'm going to try and get this out. Oops. Yeah. Right. So yeah, there you go, you can see now. So I should be able to turn this by hand. You can see that the motor itself is very tight. Like, I'm almost going to break off those fins. So what I'm going to do, I've seen a few people online, they just spray the shaft with WD-40 and just kind of work it on and off.
and hopefully it should be enough to free it. Worst case scenario, we can buy a new one. They're only like £60 from Euro Car Parts, actually sell them. Oh yeah, boy, look at that. Jesus. Well, seeing as it's a vintage car, we'll give it some vintage WD-40. Oh my god, look at that. Well, that smells like WD-40. I don't know if it's any good, like. I'll just try and lube the shaft up. I don't know why I'm forgetting to do this, but if you lift this up, you can see that the bonnet actually locks in a vertical position. So now try and work it back and forward. You can see that it's turning slowly. I mean, the bearing is pretty rough, like. If it does work, it's probably going to be noisy as anything. Look what the oil filter is in these. So like I said, it's probably just not been used in a long time because the switch has been knackered. I mean, it's definitely got a lot less resistance now. Right, I think what we'll do now is we'll try and turn it on. You can actually feel the air coming through the front of the car, even without that working. So I guess the last thing to do is check voltage, and that way I can pinpoint it as the motor. There's two wires going into it. There's something here. Oh, you're coming up! Hey! Oh, you don't like this one, do you? That's fine then, you don't like it. You smell WD-40. It stinks, doesn't it? So we'll just stick that in there. Stick that one in there. Just quickly turn the battery on. And we can also check the switch as well at the same time. So that's it on full. So we should hopefully have, I would assume, 12 volts. So that's good. So we're getting 12 volts. Now that's the switch off. So hopefully it shouldn't give us anything. Fingers crossed. Just like a trickle. 0.61. So we know that we need to buy a fan motor, which is kind of what we thought in the first place. But I'm going to have to take it out anyway, so we'll take those 3 8mm out and we should be able to slide the assembly out. Battery's disconnected. You've got to then bleed the cooling system again. But here's the offending item. It doesn't actually look that bad. You know, I might just soak it in WD-40 and just hope for the best. I've learned that the blower motor is most likely fucked, so what we'll do is we'll wait till payday, we'll get one box. They're not dear. Once we've got one of those, we'll plug it all back in. Hopefully it fixes it, and then that's another ticked job off the list.